Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a truly wild, monumental transformation. We're talking about the 40-year evolution of Native American gaming. And honestly, this isn't just a business story. It is a story of incredible legal battles, absolutely brilliant strategy, and massive economic shifts that completely flipped the script. We're going to trace how small, local operations morphed into a multi-billion-dollar global empire. So let's get into it. Okay, let's dive into this because the sheer scale of this transformation is kind of hard to wrap your head around. Think about Florida in the late 1970s and early 80s. You've got Seminole Bingo. It's a humble storefront, just a simple flat-roofed building sitting on a dirt parking lot. Now, fast forward. Contrast that with the modern Hard Rock Guitar Hotel. It's a glowing, neon-lit, billion-dollar mega resort, and it's owned by that exact same Seminole tribe today. I mean, the difference is just staggering. How in the world do you get from a simple, dusty bingo hall to a towering neon guitar dominating the skyline? And that brings us to the core question of today's explainer. How exactly did a modest bingo hall become a global empire? Because it wasn't just, a matter of good business sense. It's actually a fascinating history, deeply rooted in complex legal battles, constantly evolving regulations, and a relentless fight for tribal sovereignty. We're going to map out exactly how early Native American leaders fought these intense David versus Goliath battles against state governments, battles that literally paved the way for an economic shift that completely rewrote the rules of the American gambling industry. To see how this all builds up chronologically, we actually have to rewind to 1975. That's when President Gerald Ford signed the Indian Self-Determination and Education Assistance Act, which really started encouraging tribal self-governance. But the real spark? That happened in 1979. The Seminole Tribe of Florida opened up a high-stakes bingo hall, and the local Broward County sheriff immediately threatened to shut it down because the prizes were over the state's $100 limit. Well, the tribe sued, and guess what? They won. The court ruled that Florida's bingo limits simply didn't apply on the reservation. This set a massive precedent. It spread like wildfire. Inspired by the Seminoles, California tribes like the Suquan Band opened their own bingo operations in 1983, and they faced the exact same threats. Local sheriffs conducting raids, you name it. All of this tension built right up to a massive 1977 Supreme Court showdown known as the Cabazon Decision, and finally, the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act in 1988. Let's zoom in on that 1983 moment in California for a second. Think about the sheer grassroots reality of this starting point for the Sycuan Bend. We're talking about a lone bulldozer pushing dirt right in front of a super basic warehouse-style metal building, with just a simple Happy Holidays banner hanging over the door. This was the humble, on-the-ground reality of tribal gaming in the early 1980s. They were literally scraping these early bingo palaces together on dirt lots, all while actively fighting off local law enforcement who desperately wanted to shut the whole thing down. And this brilliantly illustrates just how incredible the payoff for those early struggles actually was. Today, that Sycuan property is a sprawling, multi-story modern casino resort. They went from a single bulldozer on a dirt lot to a luxury destination. We're talking towering palm trees, a massive winding pool complex, private cabanas, and a huge hotel tower. And here's the kicker. It stands on the exact same ground as that metal warehouse from 1983. It's been completely transformed by the hard-fought legal victories that finally allowed these tribes to operate freely. So the ultimate catalyst for all that massive growth was one very specific legal victory, the 1987 Cabazon Decision. Here's what happened. The Cabazon tribe in California opened a bingo parlor and a card room, and almost immediately found themselves totally at odds with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. They took their fight all the way to the United States Supreme Court, and in February of 1987, the court ruled entirely in the tribe's favor. They declared that what are known as Class II games were fully permissible on Indian lands, without any interference whatsoever from state or local authorities. This was a watershed victory. It suddenly stripped away state power over tribal bingo halls, sent shockwaves through the entire country, and basically forced the federal government to step in and create a national rulebook. And that rulebook? It came exactly 1 year later. In 1988, President Ronald Reagan signed the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, which you'll usually hear referred to as IGRA. This is absolutely the foundational law of modern tribal gaming. IGRA did a few major things. It created the National Indian Gaming Commission to regulate operations from a federal level. It formalized tribal gaming commissions as the primary on-site regulators. But most importantly, it created a highly specific framework that divided all gaming into specific regulatory classes. And this classification system, it is literally the reason casinos look the way they do today. Let's break down those classes because they dictate basically everything you experience on a casino floor today. It really boils down to Class 2 versus Class 3. So, Class 2 gaming covers things like bingo, non-house banked poker, and pull tabs. Under the law, tribes can basically operate these freely, no state interference required. But Class 3? That's what we call Las Vegas-style gaming. We're talking traditional slot machines, sports betting, and house-banked table games like blackjack. Under IGRA, if a tribe wants to offer these Class 3 games, they are absolutely required by law to negotiate a specific, binding agreement, known as compact, with their state government. And let me tell you, those state compacts can be incredibly strict, which has led to some totally fascinating workarounds. Take a traditional craps table with dice, right? In California, state compacts specifically make games like traditional craps and roulette illegal. So how do tribes offer these hugely popular games to players? Well, if you visit tribes like the Paula Band in California, they offer games that feel identical to craps or roulette, but they are technically classified as house-banked card games. The outcome is determined by drawing cards rather than the roll of dice or a spinning wheel with a ball. It's just an incredibly clever, perfectly legal alternative to give players that Vegas experience while strictly abiding by the state compact. Now, what's really interesting about this is how technology has completely blurred the lines between those gaming classes. What look exactly like traditional Vegas-style slot machines are often hiding a pretty big secret. If you look closely at the bottom corner of some of these machines, you'll actually see a small bingo card. Yep, these are technically Class 2 electronic bingo machines. Instead of a random number generator spinning the reels, there's a complex, high-speed electronic bingo game being played in the background against other players in the casino. The spinning reels are literally just an entertaining display of your bingo results. And because tribes don't need state permission to run Class 2 bingo, these machines gave them massive leverage. They could run these, generate huge revenue, and use that leverage while bargaining with the state for full Class 3 compacts. Game changer. So the crucial point is, where does all the money from these mega resorts actually go? Well, IGRA is extremely explicit about this. The law dictates that revenue must fund tribal government operations. We're talking education, healthcare, and public safety. It has to promote the general welfare of the tribe, build economic development and job creation, go toward charitable donations, and help fund local government agencies like roads and schools. So this isn't just about profit, right? By law, these casinos are designed to act as vital economic engines for entire communities that were historically underserved. Of course, getting to those smooth operations wasn't exactly a walk in the park. Throughout the 1990s, there was this massive gray area where tribes installed those electronic bingo machines while states pushed back hard. It was messy, to say the least. But then, in March 2000, California voters passed Proposition 1A. This officially changed the California state constitution to allow tribes to negotiate formal gaming compacts. It finally moved the industry out of that weird gray area and into highly regulated partnerships. Today, these compacts are intense. They dictate exactly how many machines a tribe can have. They mandate intense background checks, require environmental impact reports, and ensure state revenue sharing. It's a heavily scrutinized, highly professional industry now, which is a complete 180 from those early days out on the dirt lots. Which brings us completely full circle. Remember that humble Seminole bingo storefront we talked about earlier in Florida? Well, the Seminole tribe went on to purchase the entire Hard Rock brand in 2007. And recently, they purchased the iconic Mirage property right on the Las Vegas Strip. Their plan is to build a giant Hard Rock guitar tower in the absolute center of the traditional casino world. Think about that. The very people who were fighting off local sheriffs just to keep a simple bingo hall open in 1979 have now literally bought the Mirage and are planting their flag in Las Vegas. It's just an absolutely astonishing 40-year journey, going from dirt lots and metal warehouses to dominating the Vegas Strip. We've seen how pure legal grit, strategic use of technology, and rigid federal frameworks built an economic juggernaut that funds entire communities. So I want to leave you with this thought to ponder today. With tribal properties now expanding way beyond their own lands and directly taking over iconic properties on the Las Vegas Strip, what do the next 40 years of Native American gaming look like? I mean, if they can go from a storefront bingo hall to a global empire in just 4 decades, the future of this industry is going to be absolutely wild to watch. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.